to order.
Did you know about Alexander Benson and have a spot to spawn in?
Did I know about what?
Alexander Benson?
Nope.
Okay, great. First race.
Whoa, spiffy.
All right, that's good. No presentation. All right. All right, ladies and germs, we'll get this meeting started.
Yeah, we'll go now. No? Okay, we do. We didn't bring the little football. This down. We're going to batter.
You'll have a microphone right here.
Yeah. Okay.
Ready when you are.
Ladies and gentlemen, go for it.
Oyez, 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 all persons having business for this august body draw near you will be heard. The Honorable Jay Dunaway presiding. All rise. All set. Mr. President, the floor is yours. And don't forget to fill these out.
All right, good evening. Slight confusion. I didn't bring the mic, so Rivian is going to provide us one very shortly. In the meantime, I'd like to welcome everybody to the secret meeting. One thing we like to do is get a quick show of hands of who is here for the first time or first time in a long time. Yes, our guest speaker, of course, and Matthew Metz, guest celebrity, founder, chair of Cultura, our allied nonprofit who has gotten great traction with their super consumer, what do they call it? Super user focus on getting people who drive the boats to convert. Those people who have crazy long commutes, the rural drivers that aren't the stereotypical EV early adopters, getting them into EVs as their primary focus. That's really attracted a lot of attention as of late. We also have a guest speaker from Congressman Adam Smith's office, Alex Dilley. Talk tonight and update about the now concluded legislative session and a number of additional issues. Let's see.
Testing.
Testing.
You guys can hear me?
I can hear you.
Yay!
Crank it. Keep going. All right, I'm ready to sing some karaoke with this one.
Yeah.
Okay, and who else was new? Everyone is not new. You don't count. No, old timers. Turn it up if it can be turned up. Okay, we'll broadcast better from there.
Yeah.
Don't remember to swallow the mic. And we will also have some words from Jeff Finn of the Historic Electric Vehicle Foundation. He signed up new people last week, even after the meeting ended. And it's just been a heck of a time. Rivian, did everybody see the R2 and the R3 reveal? Revolutionary vehicles coming soon from our host. No, not on the show in Florida. But we'll try to get more information about those soon. All right. Miss Dilley, we're close to sorting out the audiovisual issues. I believe we got the presentation queued up. Rob's ready to go with that. So, please take the stage.
Thank you so much. Good evening, everybody. I'm Alex. Can you hear me at all?
Is there a race alternative?
Okay, is that any better?
Dave.
Okay, is that any better right there?
No.
Okay, I'll try to speak pretty loudly too. Good evening, everybody. I am Alex from Congressman Adam Smith's office. I am his Deputy District Director and I'm based out of his Renton office. As part of my portfolio, I work on transportation issues, environmental, energy, labor, what else? Food insecurity, and a few others, but those are some of my main focuses in the office. So we can switch to the next slide and I can talk a little bit about what I'll be speaking about today. I'm just going to give a really brief overview of some of the constituent services that our office provides in case you are a constituent or know a constituent. It'll also be some pretty similar information if you are in a different congressional district. And then I'll also provide an overview of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, Inflation Reduction Act, as well as some specifics around potentially relevant. No, you're good. Oh. Is that any better?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So the agenda tonight will just be having me review some of the constituent services our office provides, overview of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law and Inflation Reduction Act, and an overview of some of the relevant federal funding and programming specific to those two bills. And then I'm happy to do a Q&A. I do just want to note, I do not do policy for Congressman Smith, so I may not be able to get you an answer tonight, but I will follow up and get you an answer if I'm not able to give it to you tonight. But with that, we can get started. So just to orient you to Congressman Smith's congressional district, we are exclusively in King County. Our southern border is Federal Way in Auburn, all the way up north to a little bit north of I-90 in Seattle, Mercer Island, and then we've got part of Bellevue as well. Cities like SeaTac, Renton, Kent, Des Moines, and a few others are included in our district. And I'll just really briefly highlight some of our office's constituent services. Casework. If you have an issue with a federal agency, please reach out to us. We can assist constituents with issues from IRS to USCIS, to Social Security, veterans, any federal agency. Really don't hesitate to reach out to us, and I'll speak a little bit more about that in a moment. Our office also provides assistance with federal grants. So if you are interested in different federal grants, whether that be getting a letter of support from our office, if you're applying to a federal grant, or you're interested in what you may be eligible for, if you have a nonprofit or maybe a business, we're happy to look into that and find some resources for you. We also have an outreach program in our district office, which I'm part of. So we cover different issue areas, and we will host different events in our district. A couple coming up that I wanted to note for everybody is that this Sunday, Congressman Smith will be hosting a town hall in Bellevue at Sammamish High School. And then we also will have a youth resource fair coming up on April 6th in Tukwila at Foster High School. Also, if you are ever in DC, don't hesitate to reach out. We can get you set up with Capitol tours, White House tours. And then you'll see here, there's a few different youth opportunities. Anybody who might be interested in an internship, we have internships in our district office, DC office. We do a congressional app challenge for middle and high school students. We have an art competition as well. And we have recently instituted a youth advisory council for college and high school aged folks. We can move forward. And just a quick note on the casework and assistance with federal agencies that our office can provide. Essentially what our role is to advocate for our constituent with the federal agency, but I just want to note that we can't force a decision or force a federal agency to decide in your decision, but we can be helpful in at least getting connected with the agency and trying to resolve your situation. Okay, so now we will be able to get into the meat of my presentation here. So just a really quick overview of the bipartisan infrastructure law. This was signed into law in 2021, and it provides the largest ever federal investments in infrastructure. So that's broadband, transit, clean energy, and more. Federal funds from this bill will be disseminated in a number of different ways. Some of that is through formula funding, which often goes through state governments. There's also competitive grant opportunities, tax incentives, loans, and more. And then Inflation Reduction Act was signed into law in 2022, and it provides federal funding for investments in clean energy, climate, and more. And similar to the bipartisan infrastructure law, there's a number of different ways in which these funds will be distributed and passed around. Okay, so this slide is going to be specific to bipartisan infrastructure law and electric vehicles and electric vehicle infrastructure. I will note too, you'll see some of these words here are like hyperlinked. I am very happy to send these slides to anyone who may be interested, but what I've linked here is a lot of more specific, in-depth information, so if you're interested, very happy to pass that along to you. But the first place that I will start is talking about the National EV Infrastructure, or NEVI, formula program. Oh, and actually,
And I can share the stack with the group.
oh yeah, okay, awesome, that sounds great. So it's $5 billion in dedicated funding to states to deploy interconnected EV charging infrastructure. And the goal of this program is to put the U.S. on the path to 500,000 EV chargers. And it is important to note too that the funding associated with this program is related to most states. Do you have a question?
Yeah. So is there any allocation or is there any infrastructure spending allocated to hydrogen fueling stations?
Yeah, so there is funding for that. It's all different types. So there's hydrogen, there's even some propane. In our state, what I've seen is that a lot of our infrastructure is based around electric, but there are stipulations for other types.
And the Washington allocation is what, $7 million or something?
Yes, exactly. And then this electric vehicle charger reliability and accessibility program is a set-aside amount of funding from that NEVI funding. And this is for governments, so it could be state governments certainly, but also cities, counties are eligible for this as well. There's going to be multiple rounds of funding, but the first round is really to go in, repair and replace non-functioning charging infrastructure. So WashDOT is a grant recipient for around $10 million or so to update 560 chargers. Next slide. Okay, and continuing on with the bipartisan infrastructure law, the next thing I wanted to talk about is the Charging and Fueling Infrastructure Discretionary Grant Program. So this program is really focused on the strategic deployment of publicly accessible EV charging and alternative fueling infrastructure, and especially focusing on the places where people work and live, including along alternative fuel corridors. So today we've had 4 Washington State based grant recipients, and they've received about a combined $41 million in funding. 3 out of the 4 of those grant recipients have received between around 12 to 14 million. There was another recipient that received around 2, but that 12 to 14 million number seems to be the most common, at least right now. And then alternative fuel corridors, I expect that a lot of you are familiar with that, but just wanted to mention that too. So to your question about the other types of charging infrastructure, it does include EV, but also hydrogen, protein, natural gas, and more. And you'll see here I have linked a page from Washington State government, which has some information more about what specific places they have the infrastructure. And I did want to share this page too. This is a screenshot of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Guidebook. And this has a pretty full list of the different types of programs that came from the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law. So you'll see some of what I talked about earlier is included, but there's other things on here like the Clayton School Bus Program, electric ferry programming, again, lower and no emission bus grants, as well as their funding amounts. I do want to note again, I do have another link here for a full readout of the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law Guidebook, which is extremely helpful and provides very specific information for each of these programs. Okay, and then Inflation Reduction Act. So there's a number of different incentives that are out there, but I did want to highlight a few of these for you all today. So there is, you'll see here, there's about 4 different incentives, 3 of which are related to like EVs themselves, and then another one related to refueling. You will see there is information on, it says up to, so you can definitely have a tax credit of less, and there's specific stipulations around how much you get depending on your situation. But again, I have some information linked here too that I can share with everybody that has more specifics on that. Yeah.
Do you have recommendations on any way to give comment and or influence some of these incentives that seem to qualify for the Ready, Fire, Aim category of assistance? For instance, the used EV tax credit for vehicles under $25,000 specifies that you cannot be a dependent on anyone else's return. This rules out millions of high school and college students' first car purchases as they are still dependents, and tilts the playing field $4,000 away from used EVs in that category. Likewise, the income limits rule out a lot of the people most likely to buy used EVs, and also the the third issue. Anyway, I have a feeling that that particular credit is going to, and the biggest issue of all, it must be sold through a dealer. And anybody who gets a good deal on a used EV is definitely not headed towards a dealer, who are, in general, the least knowledgeable people about the condition of these cars and the most likely to embellish the condition of these cars. So that particular credit is going to land with a thud, I do fear. How can we fix it?
That's a great question. I think, some of these, the rulemaking has happened. I don't know though, and this is something I can take back to our policy team, if there's opportunities to, tweak some of that rulemaking. But my short answer is I don't know, but I can find out for you.
Thanks.
60 cents per chapter.
So on here I have some, just wanted to flag that the IRS has a ton of information. It looks like I added this link twice, but we have clean vehicle tax credits page, there's a refueling property tax credits page. So this can all be helpful, especially as you're getting into tax season, to just be aware of what you might be eligible for, and it just again to flag our office's casework services if you do run into any issues with the IRS. Happy to work with you. Okay, and perfect Q&A.
I was just going to call out, you all may be aware that the 45W tax credit is a commercial vehicle tax credit, and that goes beyond light duty vehicles all the way up to Class 8 to $40,000. But if you have a small business, you qualify for that, and it doesn't have the same exclusions that the regular consumer tax credit does.
I'm happy to answer questions, but I'm also happy to take feedback too. It's helpful to, I see you all as experts. So if there's things that the federal government in particular should be thinking about as a lot of this funding is coming out and infrastructure is being deployed, that would be incredibly helpful to know. Yeah.
So I will also commend the Federal Joint Office that's implementing a lot of these measures for being unusually responsive. You know, a year ago it was thou shall not include proprietary Tesla connectors in any of the projects we fund. The OEMs finally came around and said we're adopting the superior connector, and the joint office quickly said thou shalt. Similarly, NEVI had purposely included the charging station most likely to be vandalized. A level 2 must have a permanently connected cable. It disallows inductive charging, and it disallowed the European standard of bring your own cable and just plug it into a pedestal. Much cleaner for the street furniture as well, to not have all those cables hanging around. And the Joint Office has realized the error of that way as well, and recently awarded a demonstration project to a startup that's putting those bring your own cable EVSE in 4 cities on the East Coast. We want more, we need them here. So once again, we need more of the good and a little bit less of the picking of winners and letting innovation flourish in this sector.
There's a thing that I keep thinking about is I can only use a level 2.
Yep.
And so the proliferation of level 2 chargers has worked for me. There's many out there that don't work. I know where they are. But new cars will use different kind of charging. And I wonder if these are we going to have a lot of DCFC type of charging stations sitting side by side? That's kind of a tough thing to feed that power.
Yeah, that's another shortcoming of NEVI in that level 2 pedestals were not required to accompany these DC fast pedestals. And level 2 is a critical backup in the event of a common failure of the DC fast session or all of the plug-in hybrids on the road, other than the Mitsubishi Outlander, and so-called legacy vehicles. Us Chatamo drivers have been cut out of the loop. There's 260-odd thousand vehicles on the road that can use the Chatamo standard, including first-generation Tesla Model S's, but we are not getting any new stations, and my vehicles certainly have another 20 years left in them. And all this in an agency that's supposed to be centered on equity doesn't seem so.
What investments are we making in electrified rail freight? Because for some reason or another, the U.S. is relying on diesel-electric trains. Europe by now has actually managed to electrify their freight. We're spending about twice as much on freight or on rail freight than these countries. So on top of that, what allocation are we making towards the actual wires of transporting this electricity? Our grid system is a pretty fragile system as it is, and we are talking about, for my industry, megawatt charging is very much on the roadmap in the near future, so the megawatts have to come from somewhere. How are we going to prevent incidents like 2009, a tree fell in Ohio and the entire eastern seaboard went down? What kind of investments are we making in that actual wire?
Sure. And I guess on the train and freight question, I don't know, but I can get back to you on that one. As far as investments in grid infrastructure, if I'm understanding the question correctly, I would say that there are a lot of investments right now in trying to build the grid. I know recently there was an agreement that in part promoted certain tribal entities from standing up some of their own like energy infrastructure to add to the grid. So I know that there are different programs out there. If you have questions on like specific types of infrastructure being stood up, I'm also happy to look into that and get you some information.
And to tag along with that, that is a huge need, especially for the heavy-duty trucking. And in the Northeast, it the transmission lines run along where the freeways are, and out in the Midwest, we have a lot of transmission lines running through sagebrush, pretty lonely areas, not along our highways. So as we do electrified trucking, like that's going to be a big challenge, and certainly there's a huge, like the IRA, gosh, I'm just confused basically around it. One of them was about $1 billion for clean energy projects like what you just mentioned, and the other had $10 billion. That was like not even a drop in the bucket. And one of the tribes just talked about we applied for close to $1 billion in Washington for a project. It wouldn't necessarily, it built a small transmission line to like get those people to the top of the grid, but it doesn't go after what you're talking about, which is really
We'll get you the minutes to the meeting in case your memory is not photographic, so you know what questions you can follow up.
Thank you. And I'll stay too on the next slide. I do have my email address on here. I do have cards with me though, so I'm happy to pass those around. Those have my email address and my cell phone number too. But I can hand it back to you now. Thank you so much for having me today.
All right.
You probably don't need to listen to this part, but it's pretty brief because the legislative session down in Olympia wrapped up last Thursday. Short session this year. We didn't do very much. Good thing is that the bill that would have prevented manufacturers from selling cars independently outside of dealerships, that would the anti-Rivian bill basically. That one was, it did not actually go anywhere. I mean, it made some progress, but it did not come out of the legislature. So I think some of our complaints actually made a difference and kept it from moving further. It did have bipartisan support, so I was pretty worried about what was going to happen with that. We don't need to be taking another step backward at this point. So that was one of the good things. It didn't make progress, but it prevented us from going backwards. Then there was House Bill 1368, which did get through both houses of the legislature. It's gone to the governor now, and it does require the funding and purchase of zero-emission school buses starting September 2035. So yes, that's a few years down the road, but hopefully it will be an incentive for more districts to move to electric school buses. And as you probably saw up there, there's some major federal investment in electric school buses, as well as the state putting in a lot of money toward that. So
Grace, I should really know this. Is there a made in Washington provision in that?
There were some amendments to it. I am not sure about that. I don't think so because there's
hope
not
they
a lot
learn
of
from
places that
Ferries,
make
but
electric school buses,
yeah.
unfortunately. The fun thing is that an article came out just earlier this week from Colorado, I believe it was, pointing out how the few electric school buses that are deployed in Colorado actually did much better during the winter than their diesel counterparts. So you hear all those horror stories out there about how terrible electric vehicles are in the winter and snow, and now we have some people who don't really know what winter is about in Colorado. They're saying, yeah, no, we've had this experience, and yeah, they actually do better. Absolutely. So that's really good news. The other bill that got through the legislature was Senate Bill 5812, and that is the one requiring the study of best practices for responding to electric vehicle fires. That was passed by the House on a 96, or the House on a 96-0 vote. So we're definitely bipartisan and unanimous on that. It has gone to the governor. He's probably going to sign it, which is wonderful. So we'll be getting some more good data about best practices and how to make sure to share those with all first responders as we have many more electric vehicles on the road these days. Now, as we know, electric vehicle fires are very rare. It doesn't happen very often at all, much less than gas cars. But having those that more knowledge and standards in place is going to make people much less hesitant to be able to adopt electric vehicles. So that's where I really think that's a good deal. The other one I wanted to mention was Senate Bill 6304, and that was the one that was going to implement some of the recommendations of the Transportation Electrification Strategy. that some of us invested a lot of time and effort in last year as the Interagency Coordinating Council was putting together all of its recommendations and listening to lots of people doing input, and a lot of agency folks who learned a lot because they didn't know very much about electric vehicles. Yeah, Jay, I know you're shaking your head.
Grace can put a great spin on a terrible thing.
Well, the good news is that we had some of those recommendations included in that bill, including the allowing the manufacturers of only electric vehicles to be able to sell direct. So that's Rivian, yes. That was one of the provisions in that bill. It did have a little bit of traction, but it didn't actually go anywhere. It passed the Senate Transportation Committee and then did not make it out of the Rules Committee. So it does have some legs, hopefully, and will be reintroduced next year, and hopefully we can get a lot more progress with it next year, because that strategy put a lot of work into it, and to see nothing come out of it yet is pretty disappointing. Although it was introduced late, it was a very short timeline, short session, so it wasn't likely to go anywhere this year. But I have a lot more time to think about it and prepare for next year. So probably be starting in the fall to make sure people can get their voices into their legislators and get them thinking about things like that strategy before it starts to be session time. We want to make sure we're up there at the top of the list. Any questions? Yes.
Little ammunition for you the next time somebody goes, oh, EVs catch fire all the time. A gasoline car catches fire in the United States once every 45 seconds. It is the second most common cause of fire, second only to improperly disposed cigarette butts. And if anybody wants to know where you got your data from, that comes from the NTSB.
You'll see that on every day.
Yes, John, you had something?
Yeah, and just a little context on that. Like, it sounds like a very fear-mongering thing, but the genesis of it was ecology. So legislature gave ecology a little bit of money this last year. So Department of Ecology was given a little bit of funding to study EV battery recycling in the state, and like what the state should be looking at. There's a state senator who's like really gung-ho to do policy about recycling. And most of the industry reps were, hey, let's slow down, let's think this through. We don't want to have a hodgepodge, every different state doing their own thing. But this was one of the recommendations that came out of this, was to provide some more training for first responders. And there's a lot of like fear and lack of information aside from the misinformation, so it's harder that you can do. But yeah, I wouldn't say it necessarily cleared any of that up, but it's a good first step. And Jay was really helpful on some of this.
They wanted to reestablish the Liquor Control Commission in the form of battery recycling, a state-run collection and reverse distribution system using state trucks. That was one, because these batteries are so hazardous to transport, we need a dedicated system for them. That was discussed ad nauseum. It was a really interesting process.
And while it's true that electric vehicles do sometimes crash, I mean, just like gas cars, and that is usually how a fire happens, not just spontaneously, like with leaking gasoline in a gas car. So that is certainly still a danger, but it is so much lower than a gas car. It's one of the reasons electric cars are safer than gasoline cars.
You want 30 seconds for your policy committee?
Oh, yeah, thank you. Yeah, that's one more thing, is that we probably don't have a lot to do the next few months, but I would love to see if anybody else would be interested in kind of helping track some of the policy issues and keeping in touch with folks like Alex to see what's happening at the national level too, and just making sure to get the word out for things that are occurring that we can make a difference. So if anybody would like to help out, you can contact me at...
You can scan this QR code.
Right there. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. Because I kind of said I'd be chair of the policy committee, but I don't want to be all the members as well. It would be really helpful to have some people sign on and say, yes, they can help. Thanks. All right.
Great to have a warm-up back. So, thank you, Grace. Thanks for the hard work. because policy is not my jam. Committees. Let's talk about committees. So the idea behind committees is to get more done by more people getting involved, to take little jobs, and allowing us to have a greater impact. I've identified these as areas where we can have an impact, and what you'll see for each of those committees is the current pairing of the chair and the board sponsor. Each committee is intended to have a chair, a board sponsor, and then as many members as we can sustain. So Grace is the chair of Policy Committee. The membership committee is currently open for chair. Jay is the board sponsor of that. Club Communications, I'd like to thank Magdalena stepping forward to be the chair for that that committee, and I am the sponsor on that one. Web, Tech, and Geekiness. Ryan is our chair for that, and I'm the sponsor. Ryan could use another set of tech-enabled hands to address IT and web issues, so if anybody's up for that, scan the code and register away. We're looking for a meeting coordinator. The meeting coordinator, essentially, this would be the domain. We're probably going to spend an hour a month working with our fine friends at Rivian to just make sure the room is set up, we're handling any logistical issues, we're interacting with the speaker, and eventually maybe we're even doing live Zoom calls. We'll see what that happens. So anybody that can spend some time, be that much involved with technology and much more involved with just planning and logistics. Last two, events. Charlie is the board sponsor for that one. We have an open chair on that. And then industry relations, speaking to everybody else in industry, from car manufacturers to all the people that we talk to in charging infrastructure, and building relationships there so that they can provide sponsorships and other types of support for the club. Okay. So with that, I want to pass the mic to Jeff. Jeff, where are you? There you are. To give us a update on what's happening over in Kingman, Arizona. There's an obstacle course. You have to earn your way up here.
So today,
Just talk close.
Today, Kent Bakke, a SEVA member, is in Kingman, where the Historic Electric Vehicle Foundation made a presentation to the city about acquiring the property that the city bought for a new electric vehicle museum. And that's why I'm here, kind of going rogue, because you can't stop me. And I'm selling memberships tonight. And you may have seen this on a chair near you. If you didn't, the far right QR code will take you right to the membership joining, $25 a year. And this is a grandfather, it doesn't say it on the site yet, but it's a grandfathered membership that will provide you with a lot more benefits when we open the new museum. And whenever you made your, whenever you join, come back and see me, and I will get you one of these founding membership pins. And
does it come with a hat?
It does not come with a hat, but thank you. If you want to know anything more about the Historic EV Museum, it's actually a Washington State nonprofit charitable organization, and it was just because there was a big promoter down on Route 66. We thought that would be a good place for us to display a portion of our world's largest collection of historically significant EVs. And it's our 10th anniversary in the City of Kingman's Tourist Center, but we need more room because we have about 100 vehicles in the collection, and we're only able to display maybe 25 in the city's facility. So that's what we're working towards. We want, and point out to Alex, the headquarters or mailing address for the foundation is in Adams Smith's district. So we'll see if his office can come through for us. Anyway, join up, come see me. I actually can see online that you joined, and I can give you one of these pins right here and now. These may become unobtainium. It was part of the prototype, and they may be changing. You never know with a volunteer board. Thank you for your time.
All right.
Thanks,
Oh,
Jeff.
One last question, Jeff. If I can't remember whether I scanned that code at a previous meeting and already gave you $25.
I can tell you.
You can tell me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're
Or
in my-
anybody else?
You're on my list.
I know I've been on your list, but I don't know if I'm good or bad.
You're good.
Okay.
You're bad.
You're on the good list, not the naughty list. Thanks, Jeff.
Nice list. Not bad, yeah.
Note about housekeeping. We have been offered this lovely facility, thanks to our fine friends at Rivian, in exchange for two promises. One, they want to know who we are, and they also want to be able to share with the people that sign their paychecks on evidence that they are in fact building community, which is why we're asking everybody to sign in. So that's why we're doing that. Thank you for filling out the roster for that part. The other is that they want to get home to their families as well. They actually close at 8 o'clock. They are extending to allow us to be here by 8:30. So I ask that we do our best to gather our chairs, get them into a rack, not on the wall, and then make our way directly out and continue after the after party on the outside so that they can get things cleaned up. Okay, thank you. Moving along, I want to talk to you about an exciting development that will be happening later this week. We are going to release a member survey, and the intention of the member survey is to understand from your perspective what it's like to own and operate an EV. We're going to collect the data, and we're going to produce a white paper that will be available to the public by download in exchange for an email address, which we will then put on our email list and use it for promoting the club and eventually sending a newsletter once we have one to send. So look for that. We do our best to make it as painless as possible. It's not totally painless, but it's many multiple choice questions, not many, 40 multiple choice questions, and Raleigh and myself and Catherine Baker have been working on it to try and capture what it is like to own and operate an EV for our members. I think it's going to be very valuable information for people out in the public who are new EV or would-be EV owners. Lots of questions out there. As we all know, there's more questions than answers. So look for that. And here we go. Oh, so there's the summary of what I just said. I held out the best part. The first 20 surveys that get returned will get a free hat courtesy of our first sponsor, Recurrent. Thanks to them, and hopefully more swag coming. All right, we already did our welcome call. Thanks for that, Jay. So, member updates. Charlie's got a nice big racing roster in front of him. I bet you want to talk about that.
Sure. So as far as events are concerned, I thought I'd give you a heads up on this year's electric drag racing calendar. So I was over at MLE, that's Pat McHugh and Jeff Lane are partners in an electric drag racing car shop. And they are helping to kick in some funds for prize money for the electric drag racing competitions. So these races are held at Pacific Raceways down in Auburn. And the first event is scheduled for May 4th. That's a Saturday night. And it looks like there's a total of 9 events between May and August. So if you go to the Pacific Raceways racing schedule, you'll want to look for A Street Automotive ET Gold Cup Series. Those are the events where these races are held. For those of you that aren't familiar, the electric races, or the electric vehicle drag racing, it's called bracket racing. So it really doesn't matter how fast your car is. You could be racing, against the fastest electric car, and you might have the slowest one in the area, but you can still win, because what you're trying to do is predict what time you're going to have when you cross the finish line, and you have to get as close to your predicted time without going faster than that time as you can. So the big thing there is you're looking for consistency in how consistent you can do a quarter-mile drag race. MLE Race Car is kicking in $500 for prize money. First place will get $250. Second place will get $150, and third and fourth place will each get $50. Last year they were basically sponsoring the first, I think, 5 entries. It is a $50 registration to race on these race nights. They aren't doing that this year, but they are still kicking in the prize money. So if you place anywhere between first and fourth place, you're going to recoup your entry fee. Also, Pat McHugh and Jeff Lane do race at these events, and they have basically disqualified themselves from any of the prize money. So, if they take first or second place or whatever, the prize money goes to the next racers down the queue. So, I guess I can leave these specific dates. There's 3 weekends in May, 2 weekends in June, 3 in July, and 1 in August for the races. They're all on either a Saturday or on a Sunday. And it looks like, some of them are in the evening and a couple of them are in the morning. So I'll leave this with Eric, and you can put those in the notes. The minutes. Thank you.
Earth Day is coming up, and we have the Mercer Island Leap for Green car show that has space for up to 10 cars. So I've signed up, and we need to get some more. With all due respect, we don't want 10 Teslas there. So if you got something interesting, please sign up. I don't know, like maybe a converted pickup truck? Yes. The orphans and the oddballs are especially needed during car show season. So please contact me if you would be able to show at Mercer Island on the 20th, Leap for Green. Come on, recognize my face, confirm the details. Goodness, don't do electronic notes. There'll be traffic on that on the see list and on the Facebook page. And also remember our friends at the Rotary Club. They threw together an EV car show last September, and we invited us. I believe Grace made the brave appearance, but it was not well attended. Well, they're at it again, and they have managed to form a national alliance with J.B. Straubel's company, Redwood Materials, and they are holding nationwide battery recycling drives this Earth Day, specifically geared towards lithium batteries. They have not yet responded to my inquiry as to whether or not they will have a forklift there. Because I and some of you have hundreds of pounds of dead lithium batteries squirreled away. And the event solicitation does not mention that City of Seattle banned batteries in the trash, including lithium batteries, as of this January. So you are officially breaking the law now, even if you put lithium iron phosphate, otherwise known as farm fertilizer, into your trash can. And Rotary's instructions are kind of interesting. They say you can bring the entire item if it's difficult to remove the battery. I know that there's a crashed 2011 Leaf growing moss in Stephen Johnson's backyard. I'm really tempted to drag it in there.
Can I get the motor?
Oh yeah, sure. Used Leaf motors are actually a real bargain. There's lots and lots of those available in the scrapyard these
Yes, I
days.
just heard about one. So.
I'm sure the motor's still there. So I'll pass along an update if I get a response from Rotary and or Redwood, because last time I tried to send lithium iron phosphate directly to them, they wanted something on the order of $4 a pound to accept the material. Well, they're putting out press releases talking about how EV batteries will have a positive value somewhere someday. Maybe nickel, manganese, cobalt, maybe in large quantities, maybe if not part of a pack assembly. So we're a long way from the end result of a circular economy on EV batteries.
They claim they're revenue positive today, Jay.
Oh, they said it in the meeting, but it wasn't able to find anywhere that it actually will generate revenue for recyclers. So that's a difficult issue. What was next? Oh,
Anybody else have anything?
More
Yep, yep.
minutes.
I keep turning this thing on and off. More events from Grace.
Yeah, our friend Mark Schnell reminded me that there's a National Drive Electric Earth Month. It's now not just a week in April or a day in April, it's a month. So they have a website, National Drive Electric Earth Month. And they actually, there's a couple of events going on in Washington. So if you guys want to get involved, the closest one is up in Snohomish. The PUD is putting on a block party on April 27th. That's a Saturday, 11 to 2 at the Snohomish PUD in Everett. So it's going to be a display of a bunch of electric vehicles. Come bring your car. The other one is going on over at Richland at the Reach Museum. And they are also doing an EV exhibit there for Earth Day on Saturday, April 20th. So if you want to participate in either of those, go to that wonderful website operated by Plug in America called Drive Electric Earth Month, and you can find where all the events are going on.
Thank you, Grace. Anybody else have any updates? Fun facts?
Thank you. This weekend, Tesla, there's 2 different Tesla locations that have an event going on this weekend. Well, one of them is going on for the rest of the month at Bellevue 20th Street. If you bring a friend in, if you own a Tesla, you bring a friend in who's not a Tesla owner for a test drive, you'll be entered into a raffle to win either a wall connector, a mobile connector, or a Tesla backpack. And then Saturday at the Fife location is the Tesla Owner Appreciation Day. And they'll also have the same raffle only during that event. And they'll also have some of the service techs there to take Q&A. So that'll be happening, and they're on my Twitter. They're on my Twitter account for the Tesla Owners Washington. You can get the information on all those events for Tesla this weekend. Okay, thank you.
Is there a battery in that backpack?
There's not. As far as I know, there's not.
Hi everyone, I'm Matthew Metz with Cultura. Just also want to first say thank you to Yeshiva for supporting many campaigns, being a great coalition partner over the years, getting passed legislation like ZEV legislation has been incredibly important And you guys have been stalwart, and we wouldn't be nearly as far as we are without you. So Cultura, lately we've been working a lot around data of the gasoline to electric transition, which people would displace the most gasoline by shifting to an EV, how to convert those people, because 10% of American drivers use about 35% of America's gasoline. And that 10% uses almost as much gasoline as all of China. So, and that 10% uses way more than Europe. So it's very, very important to get those people to convert to an EV. And those people here in Washington are spending, upwards of 7,000 in the audience of people, of those big users who are converting, because they're not just guys out in the country with a truck, they're, nurses that are going from hospital to hospital. There are all kinds of people, and we've done lots of studies on this. Anyway, getting to events, this Friday at 11 a.m. Pacific, we're having a national webinar. We're doing it in conjunction with RMI, formerly known as Rocky Mountain Institute, and Greenlining, which is one of the premier environmental justice organizations in the country. There's going to be a lot of people there. It should be a great show. If I don't have it up on the website, but if you just go to cultura.org, COLTURA.org, you can register there. It's free, and you'll learn a lot about this kind of work. Another thing I want to say is that, we're moving more into data, into our websites, into really helping those super users convert to EVs. So just all the data work that you guys are doing, and eventually I'd like to get in touch with you and talk more about how we can collaborate and work together in Washington to convert those users. Also just say that, Grace talked about the legislative session, but last year there was $50 million appropriated for EV incentives in Washington, roughly. I mean, I'm not sure exactly how much it's going to be after administration costs and stuff, but anyway, quite a bit. And they're making a plan right now, and it's actually going to include money for super users for the first time. Washington, again, will be a state policy leader and really helping get this movement started nationally. Anyway, so yeah, hope to see you guys on Friday if you can make it. Thank you.
Anybody else?
So on April 13th, the Packard Technical Center is holding their annual open house from 11 to 3. As far as I'm aware, Packard is the largest EV OEM in the state. Perhaps, maybe the Electric Ferry team can beat us in terms of mass, but Packard right now is we're working through our third phase of our battery electric trucks. You may recognize our brands that would be Kenworth, Peterbilt, and DAF in Europe. We are also a few years out from rolling out our first fuel cell electric vehicle. The fuel cell electric heavy-duty trucks are thought to be the future of trucking for the foreseeable future in the heavy-duty range. There is always people holding out hope for heavy-duty BEVs, but for now, given our customers and what they need 400 miles of range. Compressed hydrogen is looking to be the future. And either way, if you want to see us test some of those trucks, if you want to see kind of the history of the company, feel free to stop by the Packard Technical Center in Burlington, April 13th, 11 to 3. It's a lot of fun things to see. Hopefully they'll have at least a few videos of them, or a few examples of them destroying trucks. I don't think they do too much of that with people there. There's a lot of technical demonstrations and destructive tests for the reasons of basically to keep the trucks on the road and not going over bridges.
Good stuff. Thank you.
I'll throw one more event onto your calendars and also a poll question. On April 17th, myself and Mike Fink of Puget Sound Solar /EV Support will be putting on a moderator for the Building Operator Certification Continuing Education Program run by the Smart Building Center here in Seattle. It'll be about commercial EV charging infrastructure for site hosts. So everyone from apartment and condominium managers to employers, which are a bit of a black hole still for charging. A very, very small percentage of employers offer EV charging to their employees, and there's a lot of difficulty around that. Fourth Mobility, our allied nonprofit, has spun up a workplace charger certification program where you fill out a questionnaire, send it off, and Tacoma Power is now platinum certified. Yay. So April 17th, 11 to 12. And especially among those of you who are retired and may watch a lot of YouTube videos, how many of you have ever paid for a webinar? I'm getting nonstop pitches for $40 subscription webinars, all listening to talking heads talk about the future of EVs. And actually, the one I'm doing will be a $40 webinar. Who has ever paid 40 or 50 bucks on or off the job to attend a webinar? Matthew, yes, only one. Okay, so yeah, I'm telling our hosts that this is not an effective way to reach the unwashed, the merely curious.
Who's the target audience? Who's the target audience?
The target audience is building management, building managers. So they have some budget, but it's all. I try to only do purchases that are more than $1,000 because there's so much paperwork involved. $40, I'd spend as much time
as a standalone,
processing the cost as.
I've seen a bunch of webinars. I've seen packages of webinars put together and called a conference, right? And then maybe there's a little bit more. But even, come to think of it, only a fraction of those are charged. Many are free.
Yeah.
Free.
Free, brought to you by our sponsor, is a better business model, I dare say. Okay.
All right. Well, we got through our member updates. We have a little time to mingle. It is now 8:12, and the store is closed, and you'll notice it's quiet out there. Any last comments or questions for the good of the order? No. Grace?
Can we have a big thank you to our friends at Rivian for the space and the you guys are the best. Really appreciate it.
And if anybody hasn't signed in yet, if you can, we'll leave this back here. If you've not, thank you very much.
So if we signed in last month, should we sign in again now?
Yeah, so we'll, please, because we'll check you in back in again. Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay. And yes, thanks also to Rivian for jumping into the fray and providing this PA system when Jay did not get the memo and it's in his trunk up in the parking garage. So we'll set up our own sound next month, and you know that one is loud, so I won't make the reluctant come from the back row up to the front. Dave. Okay, yes, Jeff.
Who's Micah? Micah? Okay.
Okay.
I just needed to find out.
All right, well, with that, mingle amongst yourselves. Please help put up chairs, and let's get out of here within 15 minutes. Thank you.